did bring an issue of partisanship. And so they did not feel that it was going to bring that aspect of impartiality, because we have to remember the term is friend of the court. The court is supposed to be impartial. So when you come in, you're coming in to actually also bring relevance to that aspect of impartiality. So the parties did feel that LSK in this particular instance, in these particular circumstances, did not hold to that threshold and objected and to the application of which the Supreme Court judges upheld.
Could they have also rejected the Attorney General's application? Could they have objected to that? Could that have been a possibility?
The Supreme Court judge?
Yes.
I think so. If it did come out that, as was being argued, that his inclusion would not have been of relevance to these particular proceedings, then they could have done so. But as I mentioned, they did look at the particular and very important mandate that the Attorney General does hold with concern to the executive, with concern to government as a whole, but more importantly to wananchi. I think at one point it was mentioned that these proceedings are not just about the parties, the petitioners and the respondents, but about the 40 million Kenyans that we are, because the petition really is about testing whether the sovereignty of Kenyans, which is entrenched in the first article of our constitution, whether that is of what Kenyans really call for. And so after the pronouncement of the IEBC, and now with this particular process of trying to question that, it's really to try and see whether validly the person who was pronounced as a president-elect is the voice of Kenyans through
essentially
their
what we
sovereign
said
power.
yesterday, testing the muscle of the Constitution. I have one or two more questions. Initially, you also brought up another term as we were having a conversation off air, sui moto.
Okay.
Again, explain the relevance of that. First, explain what it means and the relevance with regards to this particular hearing. Because
one of the other things that was achieved today, as I was saying, in terms of applications, is that beyond the applications that the different parties did make, the Supreme Court, suo motu actually in Latin, which means on its own motion, did make certain orders. It ordered for the scrutiny of all Forms 36 and Forms 34, but also the retallying of 22 of the results from 22 polling stations. And this it did in the absence of an application coming from any of the parties, but of its own motion, of its own wisdom and prudence, felt that this was necessary to be done. And that's really what that means, that it did not come, as it were, from an application from the floor, but
the volition of its own.
Yes, and powers that it has through the Constitution and other enabling laws. All
right, Bob, we'll continue to have this conversation. Okay. It's a long week ahead. We thank you for speaking to us tonight. Bob Mukangi, of course, a lawyer, just really unpacking the pre-trial conference. And that continues at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Citizen TV will be standing by, bringing you that coverage, and we'll continue to analyze exactly what the results are likely to be. Remember, that's happening tomorrow. The hearings officially begin on Wednesday at 9 in the morning. Saturday is when we're expected now to hear the decision of the Supreme Court. So we'll keep you updated on that. It's back to you now, Michael and Catherine.
Well, thank you very much, Janet. Very good one there with Bob Mkangi. In fact, getting to tell us more actually about suo motu on its own motion. The court ordered a scrutiny of 35, scrutiny of 22, Form 35, and also making sure that there is a retallying. Thank you very much, Janet, for that. And we shall also be giving you a detailed coverage tomorrow morning. Remember, this will go on. Our team is ready to give you a detailed coverage as the Supreme Court moves on. Catherine.
Well, thank you, Michael. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, has dismissed claims that senior government officials, including the head of Civil Service, Francis Kimemia, and Chief of Defense Forces, General Julius Karangi, may have been involved in plans to rig the general elections. In a letter to the director of CID, Ndegwa Mohoro, Tobiko says there is no evidence to support the claims made by the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy that there was a pre-poll rigging plan that would have seen the provincial administration used to secure victory for one presidential candidate. Abdi Osman has the details.
The director of CID had sent his findings to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, following a probe into the claims made in February by the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy that the head of Civil Service, Francis Kimemia, the PS Internal Security, Mutea Iringo, the Chief of General Staff, General Julius Karangi, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Service, Michael Gishangi, were linked to a pre-election rigging plan that would have used the provincial administration, among other government agencies, in favor of the Jubilee presidential candidate Uhuru Kenyatta. Kimemia had been accused of organizing meetings of the provincial administration aimed at securing support for Kenyatta. The other officials are alleged to have participated in other meetings with the aim of ensuring that Kenyatta ascended to the presidency. Kimemia, through the government spokesman Muthui Kariuki, had in the recent past dismissed the allegations. But Tobiko says that after carefully analyzing the evidence contained in the submitted CID duplicate inquiry, he was in agreement with the CID director that, quote, there is neither direct nor circumstantial evidence supporting the allegations, unquote. Tobiko says that the allegations were also the subject of a parallel inquiry by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Tobiko has now ended the CID probe, concluding his statement by saying, quote, in the premises, I accept your recommendation to have the inquiry filed closed with no further police action, unquote. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has now returned the duplicate inquiry file to the CID Director, meaning the matter will not be pursued any further. Abdi Osman, Citizen Live at 9.
Well, thank you, Abdi, for that. Now, the deadline for those keen to be Speaker of both the National Assembly and the Senate has expired. And by close of business, 16 people had applied for the position of the Speaker of the National Assembly, while 11 had applied for the position of Speaker of the Senate. The breakdown is as follows. Those who have applied for the position of Speaker are Kenneth Marende, Justin Muturi, Abdikadir Mohamed, Machana Mokua, Migundo Winja, Harrison Mwangi, Cosmas Koech, Jacob Kithinji, Alex Otunga, Amos Otieno, Joseph Mongela, Felix Kiprono, Stephen Mwanza, Mohamud Sirat, Jane Kitundu, and Lois Kathirimo. Now, for the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, the following have expressed interest: Joyce Laboso, Daniel Maanzo, Abdikadir Aidan, and Peter Opondo Kaluma. As for the Senate, the following have applied for the position of Speaker: Francis Olekaparo, Ekwe Ithuro, Farah Maalim, Josephat Orangi, Eric Daisley Omondi, Jane Mwehaki, Cecilia Ngoyoni, Kulamo John Kamau, and Kabui Wayaki Hassan, Mungai, Philip Murgor, and Betty Tet. And for the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, the following have applied: Kembi Geturo, Wilfred Machage, George Khaniri, Lynette Nyakeriga, and Martha Wangari. Now, both houses meet on Thursday morning, where the first business will be to swear in all the members before embarking on the process of electing the respective speakers and the deputies. Well, there you have it. Those are some of the stories. Indeed, you're watching Citizen Live at 9, and still ahead.
A 13-year-old boy arrested for allegedly murdering his father in Naivasha.
And later in business, National Bank records 50% drop in profits.
Well, make sure to join us for these and other stories soon after this commercial break.
Stay tuned.
St. Paul's University provides you with holistic education in the most conducive environment. With unique programs, state-of-the-art facilities, convenient study center,